Rome had an official poisoner, not a rumor, not a legend buried in footnotes, a real person, employed by two emperors, rewarded with land, students, and legal protection. Her name was Locusta, and the Roman Empire could not have looked the way it did without her. What makes this story strange is not that she existed. It is that Rome knew. The senators knew. The historians wrote it down. No one did anything about it. That is the story worth telling. She came from Gaul. That is almost everything we know about her origins. No birth date, no family name, no record of how she learned what she learned. By 54 CE, she was in Rome, working inside the inner circle of Agrippina the Younger, wife of Emperor Claudius, mother of Nero, one of the most calculating women in Roman history. Poison, by this point, was not unusual in Rome. Tacitus recorded cases of poisoning throughout the empire. Pliny the Elder had cataloged over 7,000 known toxins by the 1st century. Emperors ate food pre-tasted by slaves. Some drank tiny doses of poison daily, hoping to build immunity over time. The Romans understood what poison could do. They feared it constantly. But Locusta was different. She was not a guard or a taster. She was a manufacturer. She understood plants. She understood dosage. She understood timing. How long before symptoms appeared? How to make a death look like an illness? How to leave no trace that could be tested or proven? That combination of knowledge made her indispensable to people who needed things done quietly. And in Rome, there were always people who needed things done quietly. In the autumn of 54 CE, Agrippina had a problem. Her husband, Emperor Claudius, was still alive. She wanted Nero on the throne. Claudius stood in the way. She turned to Locusta. The plan was precise. Locusta prepared a poison concealed inside a mushroom, a dish Claudius was known to enjoy. The dose was not fatal on its own. That was deliberate. Claudius ate dinner. The mushroom made him ill. He left to vomit. His doctor, a man named Xenophon, came to assist. He handed Claudius a feather, the standard Roman method for inducing vomiting. The tip of the feather had been coated in Atropa belladonna. Claudius died in the early hours of October 13, 54 CE. The official cause was illness. The physicians recorded nothing suspicious. Agrippina had spent days preparing Nero's accession speech. It was published the same morning Claudius died. History rarely lines up that cleanly. This one did. A year later, Locusta received a second commission. Nero wanted his stepbrother Britannicus dead. Britannicus was Claudius's biological son, and in many Romans' eyes, the person with the stronger claim to the throne. As long as Britannicus was alive, Nero's position was not completely secure. Locusta prepared the poison. It worked too slowly for Nero. He had her flogged. She went back to work. What she produced next was administered at a formal dinner in 55 CE. The drink was first served to a slave for tasting, safe, then brought to Britannicus, hot. One of Nero's people diluted it with cold water, as was the Roman custom. The poison was in the cold water. Britannicus drank it. He convulsed within seconds. Every guest at that table watched it happen. Nero told the room it was an epileptic fit, a condition Britannicus was known to have. Then he kept eating. Not a single person at that table questioned him. Think about what that means. That is not just power. That is what it looks like when an entire room decides in real time that they did not see what they just saw. After Britannicus died, Locusta was not arrested. She was rewarded. Nero issued a formal pardon for all prior crimes. He gave her large country estates outside Rome. He sent pupils to her, selected students who would learn the art of poisoning under her instruction. Rome had, for the first and possibly last time in recorded history, a state-sponsored school of poison. Nero kept one of her fastest-acting formulas in a small golden box, stored for his own use, if it ever came to that. Locusta operated openly. She was not hidden. Senators knew who she was. Historians named her in their accounts. Rome looked at what she did, wrote it down, and moved forward. For nearly 15 years, she worked under the protection of the most powerful man alive, the most dangerous woman in the empire, and in a strange way, one of the safest. In 68 CE, Nero fled Rome. Days later, he was dead, by his own hand. No poison in the golden box could save him now. Locusta was arrested immediately. The new emperor, Galba, called her part of the scum that had risen to the surface during Nero's reign. She was chained, led through the streets of Rome in public. The city that had protected her for 15 years watched her pass. She was executed in 69 CE. No final words survive. No grave. No monument. Just the historians. Tacitus, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, writing down what she did, because they could not ignore it. Rome had an official poisoner. It was not a secret. It was policy. And it lasted exactly as long as the man who needed it. This was History Bits Studio.